Hey guys, it's Dana. Today we're going to talk again about skirts because everybody loves a cute skirt. Everybody needs a cute skirt. And the best kind, in my opinion, are ones that have pockets. So let me show you how to add pockets to your skirt. Pockets in a skirt are, well, kind of dreamy. Not only is it great for holding your keys and your phone, but it's just kind of comfortable to stand and chat and move about with your hands in your pockets. And sewing side seam pockets are really easy. Here's what you need: a small amount of fabric and your hand for measurement. Now the skirt I'm sewing today is a gathered skirt with a fitted waistband, which I created because many of you asked how to turn a simple skirt into something that was a little bit more flattering on an adult-sized body. It's a pattern I sell in my shop called the Anywhere Skirt. Go to madeeveryday.com and click on shop. Now you don't need this specific pattern to add pockets to your skirt. You just need a garment that has 2 side seams. So let's trace your hand and make a little pocket pattern. All you have to do for your pattern piece is trace your hand. Stick it on a piece of paper with a pencil and just trace right around, leaving a lot of extra room for your seam allowance. And so it's nice and comfy for your hand. Kind of looks like you're making a mitten. And again, it doesn't need to be precise because this is going to be hidden inside of your skirt. Okay, well, that wasn't the best job, but you get the idea. Something like this. I've actually cut out the pattern piece that comes with my skirt, and that's what I'm gonna use. But either version works fine. Now let's cut it out from our fabric. As I said, you don't need a lot of fabric. Just need enough to cut actually 4 of these pocket pieces, 2 for each side. Okay, you don't need to cut it on a fold or anything like that. Just place it right on your fabric and let's cut it out. When I cut, I like to just hold my hand right on top of the pattern piece and cut really closely next to it. You could use a rotary cutter and a mat, or you could trace to the fabric first and then cut it out. Just do whichever version works for you. And I should point out that my fabric is actually folded right now, so I'm cutting 2 pattern pieces at the same time. And you want these pieces to be mirror images of each other. What that means is that the fabric is going to be opposites, just like you're looking in a mirror. Okay, let's cut another one. Okay, now there you go. We've got 4 pocket pieces that are mirror images. Now let's talk about our skirt fabric. One thing I love about sewing these pockets is that it's kind of one of those aha sewing moments where you feel like a little bit of a trickster for figuring it out. Just watch and you'll see. Now what I have here is the front of my skirt and the back of my skirt. And my particular skirt pattern is made up of 2 front pieces. That's because there are buttons that go all the way down my skirt. Yours might be just the same piece on the front and the back. Either way is fine. What is most important are these side seams. That's where we're gonna add the pockets. So let's take these front pieces and set them aside for a minute. And we're just gonna work on the back. Take your first pocket piece. Now I have the right side of my fabric facing up. The right side is the nice side of the fabric. And I'm gonna measure down about 3 inches, or it could be 2 inches. It doesn't need to be exact, but you do need to be consistent with each part of the skirt that you do. I'm gonna place my pocket right here, again with the right sides of the pocket facing the right side of the skirt. And you want the pocket going down toward the bottom of your skirt. And then we're gonna pin that in place. The edge of my pocket is flush with the edge of my skirt here so that it's all sewn into the side seams. And grab the other one and do the same thing on the other side. Measure down 3 inches. There we go. It's nice when you're working with a big checker print like this because lots of lines for you to match everything up. Pin that in place. Whoops. Pin that in place. And then eventually what we're going to do is to sew those right down and sew them in place. But let's pin the front of the skirt as well. I've got my 2 front pieces and we're gonna pin the pockets the exact same way. 3 inches. Pin it in place. Okay. When you're sewing with skirts, sometimes it might be easy to forget which is the top of your skirt and which is the bottom. So sometimes I like to place a little pin right there just so that as I'm sewing, I don't accidentally get them flipped around. Of course, once you have your pockets sewn in place, it's pretty easy to remember which is the top and which is the bottom. Okay, we have all of them pinned. Now we're ready to sew. Okay, I'm just threading my machine here, following all the markings on my machine. And of course, I know I'm always talking about this, but I do love this automatic needle threader. Press the button, and there it is. Total time saver. Okay, this is really simple. All we're gonna do is sew right down this pocket using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now you can use any seam allowance you want. You just wanna use something that's slightly smaller than whatever you're sewing the rest of your skirt with. And all that a seam allowance means is the distance from the edge of the fabric to where you sew. So put it under your machine. Do a little back stitch. And sew it in place. Back stitch again, and cut your threads. I do love my baby lock cutting feature as well. Okay, let's sew the other front piece and then we'll sew the ones on the back. I've sewn all 4 pockets in place, and now what I wanna do is to just press out those seams. Pressing is a very important aspect of sewing. It makes all your stuff look more polished and less homemade. Okay, just press it so that the pocket is going now away from the skirt like that. Let's do it to all 4 pockets. Now here's where kind of the tricky part comes in. Well, it's not that tricky, but you'll see. Lay the back of your skirt down on the table with the pockets facing out like that. Then grab the front piece, and we're gonna match these up at the pockets. Okay, and if we did all of our math correctly, everything should match up perfectly. That's kind of an aha in itself, right? I always feel kind of special when that happens. I'm gonna pin these in place. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're gonna start sewing our side seam at the top here. When we get to the pocket, pivot and turn and go around the pocket. When we get back, sew down the rest of the side seam. I mean, come on, it's kind of tricky, right? Yeah, it is kind of tricky. A little bit tricky? Maybe, okay. Let's do the other side. Pin it in place and just go down, and then we'll go sew. Okay, start with a little back stitch. And this time around, I am sewing with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That will make sure that all these pockets are kind of just a little more hidden inside of the skirt. Okay, I'm sewing down, and now I'm getting close to where my pocket is. I'm gonna stop right there, lift my presser foot and pivot, and then we'll sew around the pocket. Now if you find that as you go around the curves that you're going a little too fast, you can always adjust your speed control right over here. That way, it just helps a little bit with those curves. Okay, and I find that when sewing curves, it really helps to use both hands, go slow, and just kind of carefully ease it as you go. This works well if you're using a woven fabric, which this is. If you're doing that with a knit fabric though, it can really stretch your fabric. So with knits, you need to kind of stop, pivot, but you can see this is working pretty well. Okay, there we go, around that pocket. Okay, now we're back to the side seam again. Turn and pivot, and just go right back down. And then do a little back stitch at the end. Okay, let's do the other side. Okay, now I'm just pressing out my side seams. I've already done the other seam, and this will just make it look nice and crisp. And special moment, you can kind of see our little pocket hiding right inside of there. Yay, good job. Okay, now let's fold this up so that it kind of looks like a skirt. Still needs some work to be done on it, but just finish up your skirt, sewing it with all the steps that you would for your pattern or tutorial. And soon, you will have a cute little skirt with, if I can find it, a little pocket. Excellent work. For more ideas and tutorials, visit my website, madeeveryday.com. And for more information on sewing machines, go to babylock.com, where it's all for the love of sewing. I'll see you next time.